This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Fight Night Grasso versus Araujo, flyweight bout between number 5 and number 6 in the world, where we get to decide who is one step closer to potentially maybe close to beating Shevchenko, but still losing at the end of that fight. But let's get started with this entire fight card, beginning with a very, very poor fight, Mike Jackson versus Pete Rodriguez. And I don't say that because I'm trying to crap on Pete Rodriguez. I think he's swell. But Mike Jackson is, he's a plus 470 comeback on Pete Rodriguez minus 650. To me, it's very simple. Like, I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about it. Pete Rodriguez is going to knock out Mike Jackson. And I know it was simple to say that against Dean Barry as well, where Mike Jackson won as an underdog, I think a plus 1100 or so. Pete Rodriguez isn't a moron, or as I like to call Dean Barry, which I'm going to have to bleep here for YouTube, but a f***ing retard. So Pete Rodriguez being not a f***ing retard is going to win this one, mainly because his boxing's pretty good. I know he fought Jack Della Maddalena in his 5th fight. He lost that fight by knockout, and I expected that to happen. He showed some decent skill in there. I do think he should be dropping down to 155. I don't know if they told Pete, hey, we'll give you a little extra money. We'll give you an extra $2,000 just to beat the crap out of Mike Jackson and get him out of the UFC, because I don't know if he has a 3-fight contract or whatever the fuck they gave Mike Jackson, whose only win is against, again, retard Mike, Dean Barry, and CM Punk, who, no. But yeah, Pete Rodriguez, the only thing he has to overcome is potentially just a reach disadvantage, which is a 1-inch reach disadvantage and a 4-inch reach or a 4-inch height disadvantage. Pardon me. Against Mike Jackson, he's a bit goofy, keeps his hands up trying to deflect shots like that, but his chin is always up in the air. I do think Pete Rodriguez catches him to the body, left hook, and then catches him with the left hook to the head, knocking him out in the first round. So I won't spend too much time on that one. I'm not touching this fight because of the odds are ridiculous. Pete Rodriguez at a minus 150 I would take gladly. Minus 200, sure. Minus 300, why not? Minus 650, not a chance. So I'll take Rodriguez round number 1 knockout. He gets Mike Jackson out of the UFC. Next bout, flyweight bout between CJ Vergara versus Tatsuro Taira, the Supernova, 22 years old, 5'7", 70-inch reach for Tatsuro Taira, and CJ Vergara, 5'6", 68-inch reach. The odds have it in favor of Taira, minus 240 comeback on Vergara is a plus 195 for you Spanish speakers out there. Every time I see the name Vergara, it reminds me of verga, which I think translates to dick. I was never really much into talking shit in Spanish, so I have no idea, but I think it's dick or pussy or something like that. Verga. But in this particular fight, CJ, he's a scrappy guy. He's a very, very tough guy. He moves forward. He's very aggressive. Good body shots. Good boxing. His takedown defense is questionable. I do think he can make this fight a bit grimy, but Tatsuro, although I have my issues with him, he doesn't really throw a lot of volume. When he gets you to the ground, I think he controls you there. He's very good at that. Can he get swept? Yes, we've seen that with Candelario, who I took a shot on against Taira, and he performed admirably. I thought he could have gotten the nod. Potentially, he did slightly a bit more. But for CJ, I think he's a smart guy. I think he's capable of winning this fight. He's going to have to put the pressure on Taira. He's going to have to attack the body, attack the head, just throw a lot of output. The issue with CJ is that his takedown defense is a bit questionable against Clayton Rodriguez, a fight that I picked against him. I didn't think he was going to win it. I still think Clayton's a very good fighter. He was able to give him a bit of a beating in the second round. Granted, it was because of an illegal fence grab that he was able to get the mount on him and tee off on him a little bit. But in that third round, after CJ kind of beat him up a bit, Clayton was able to still take him down, still hold him for a bit. He ended up losing that fight, Clayton that is, and I rewatched it, and CJ clearly won it despite the fence grabs. If you want to include the fence grabs, Clayton wins that fight, taking a point away, but didn't happen. Didn't get seen, didn't get acknowledged. Not that I'm salty about it. It's just, it is what it is. But I think Tatsuro Taira can eventually take him down, hold him with the body lock, and I do think he submits him in the second round. I think it's going to be an overwhelming difference when it comes to the grappling. I just think that Taira That's his bread and butter. He's got some decent strikes. I know he was able to even drop Candelario with, I believe, a straight right hand. I don't see CJ getting cracked with that. Even if he does, I don't think he'll go down. I think he'll go down by the takedown of Tatsuro Taira and the second round submission off of the body lock rear naked choke. Next bout, strawweight bout, Piera Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes. You know, I don't know if I mentioned already, but this is the second or third time I'm recording this because my internet's been acting like absolute garbage. So I'm like using my phone's hotspot to record this. And I spent a good like 20 minutes going over this fight, which I'm not going to do again. Very simply put, minus 200 for Piera Rodriguez, plus 165 for Sam Hughes. Taking Sam Hughes at those odds, I think, is a pretty good shot because it's going to probably come down to the third round. Sam Hughes, she's got a ever evolving style now. She's not necessarily looking to fight in the cage. I don't consider her a fighter. I consider her I don't even want to call her an athlete. The way I described it earlier was that Sam Hughes is a female fighter and Piera Rodriguez is a fighter who happens to be female. And I think that's a big contrast between these two. Piera Rodriguez is going to go out there and try to beat you, physically beat you as a fighter would. And Sam Hughes is going to try to win the fight. And by winning the fight is by controlling the pace, getting you down, holding you down against the cage, just holding you, right? Just hugging you. And she's getting really, really good at that. Like in the fight with Nunes, she was getting her ass beat. And I still think Nunes, despite, losing the third round, like, honestly, I skimmed through that fucking fight. I'm still a little confused as to how Nunes lost that fight. Like, I know there was a point deducted, but I still thought she won that second round, Nunes. As for Sam Hughes, again, she's getting better and she's accepting the fact that she's not necessarily a strong striker. She's just going to try to hold you down, get you to the ground, get mountain, try to knock you out with TKO you like she did against Elise Reed. Piera Rodriguez, she's a tough girl. She trains at a black house. She will initiate takedowns. I think she's going to be the stronger girl despite being the smaller girl, maybe not even the most muscular girl. Sam's pretty muscular herself, but I think she's got a grittiness to her that it's going to lead her to victory by decision. I think she's going to win the last two rounds. First round might be a bit tricky. I can only see the fight going one of three ways. Sam Hughes wins this fight doing what she normally does, just kind of controlling the pace, holding girls like she did against Elise Reed, getting her down and holding her there for dear life, while Piera Rodriguez, despite having good jiu-jitsu, good sweeps, good butterflies, might get back to her feet. I think it's not going to be enough because the judges already seen it for Sam Hughes due to the control time. She wins by decision. Piera Rodriguez is losing slightly, same way, but she comes back the later rounds, implements her own grappling, wins the fight by decision, or the way I would hope to see it, the way it should go, Piera Rodriguez just completely blows Sam Hughes out of the water. Because although Sam Hughes, I respect her coming into her own with Fortis MMA in her corner, kind of learning how to win these fights, Piera Rodriguez is a true fighter, and I think she should beat the crap out of Sam Hughes. But again, Sam Hughes is learning. She's getting better. She's able to not fight, but point fight. And I think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be the second scenario where Sam Hughes might win the first and then Piera wins the last two. So I'll go with Piera, but it could be a very close fight. So one of those three options I think is going to be a possibility. Next bout, Rafael Assunscao versus Victor Henry. Victor Henry minus 315. Come back on Assunscao is plus 260. 40-year-old Rafael Assunscao. Had it been 35-year-old Rafael Assunscao, it'd be all over plus 260. I'd be like, fuck Victor Henry. I don't give a fuck how good he is. I'll take Assunscao at plus 260 for the hell of it. At this rate, 40-year-old Victor or Assunscao is going to get his ass beat by 35-year-old Victor Henry. Victor Henry's going to have the obviously youth advantage. He's going to have the speed advantage, the volume advantage, the wrestling advantage, the grappling. Probably not. He's been submitted himself, but I just think he's near the total package. Victor Henry, like he's very good at mixing things up, and I think with his catch wrestling ability, he's going to be able to withstand any sort of takedowns that Rafael Assunscao will try to get on him, because that's probably his only way of winning is to get a submission on Victor Henry. And I just don't see that happening based off of two things. Obviously, the catch wrestling ability of Victor Henry. He's got great takedown defense, good scrambles. Maybe not the greatest jujitsu. Like I haven't seen too much of it. Like he's a very solid fighter, and of course with that catch wrestling ability, it leads into the submissions. But when it comes to pure grappling, Rafael Assunscao is gonna cover him there with the jujitsu. It's just more so the second thing. Victor Henry's long range strikes, his precise, straight punches and that volume. And I think eventually round number 2 is going to come along and he's going to clip a Assunscao with something. He's going to put him down and TKO him in the second round. So I'm going to go with Victor Henry, and I've already got a parlay with him on it. So hopefully this goes according to plan. But yeah, Victor Henry, round number 2 knockout. Next bout, middleweight bout, Nick Maximov versus Jacob Malkoun. Minus 160 for Maximov, plus 130 for Malkoun. Another fight that I broke down earlier, and it just took too damn long. Very simply put, both wrestlers, it could play out on the feet. If it does play out on the feet, Jacob Malkoun, I think, has the better striking. I think his performance against Brendan Allen really displayed not only his ability to out wrestle good grapplers, he was able to even land some good punches on Brendan Allen, and it made Brendan uncomfortable to try to let his hands or kicks go because of the takedown threat of Jacob Malkoun. He's got great grappling, he's got great cardio, his boxing's not too bad. He's going to give up some size, of course, but I don't think it's going to matter when it comes to Nick Maximov, because Maximov himself, again being a wrestler, if he plays on the feet, his striking's not the greatest. He's got some decent kicks. His striking could be improved, and I think it could eventually catch up to Malkoun because it's not that far off. It's more so at this very moment, I think Malkoun's going to have that striking advantage. As for the wrestling and grappling advantage, I think it's going to favor Nick Maximov slightly. He's going to have the youth advantage, although it's not by much, 4 years. It's just more so that the height and reach is going to come into play here. He's just a bigger guy. I think he's wrestled bigger dudes. In the Contender Series, he fought a heavyweight when he only weighed, ironically enough, 209 pounds, being that he trains out of the Diaz Academy. And I just think he's not going to have too much trouble taking down Malkoun. As for Malkoun taking him down, that could be a different story. Maximov was wrestling with Cody Brundage and Punahele Soriano, and he was able to handle them pretty easily. And they're, I think, much bigger guys, especially Brundage. I think Brundage is a big dude. He's been kind of progressing a little bit with his skills, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. It could become that Cody Brundage being on your record might be a pretty decent win. At the time, it's dude only beat Cody Brundage. What a moron. But in this particular fight, despite the fact that he lost to Petrosky by that submission, I don't see Malkoun being a submission threat nor a knockout threat. He doesn't necessarily have that knockout power. And I think Maximov's going to have free range to just make it a grappling affair. And being that he's got the better jiu-jitsu between the two, I think Malkoun is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. But again, Nick Maximov has the better credentials, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Maximov by a decision. If a submission comes along, I think it'll be on the end of Maximov getting it on Malkoun. I really don't see Malkoun being able to finish Maximov here. I think Malkoun is more comfortable just straight holding guys down, landing punches. Maximov likes to, create the possibility for that submission. So he's more of position over submission, while Malkoun will try to I don't want to say knock your head off on the ground, but land punches. So I think Maximov will take the back of Malkoun, just kind of completely out wrestle him on the mat. So we'll see how this one plays out. So yeah, Maximov decision for me. Next bout, bantamweight bout, Mana Boy Martinez versus Brandon Davis, Killer B. Odds have it in favor of Mana Martinez minus 160. Come back on Brandon Davis plus 135. To me, this one was pretty simple. Mana Martinez is going to knock out Brandon Davis with the left hook. Whether in round number 1 or round number 2, I don't think it'll hit around number 3. I think Mana, his last fight, he fought a really tough Ronnie Lawrence. It was a very difficult stylistic matchup for him, with him being a karate guy, the darting in and out style, which did hurt him and dropped him a ton of times. Those straight punches from Ronnie Lawrence really put him down a lot. But his heart and determination, he kept fighting. He didn't look out of it. It was more of he got popped, he got dropped, what the fuck just happened? For Brandon Davis, he's a tough guy. He's a gritty veteran at 32 years old. He's just been through a lot, right? Like he's had surgery on his knees. He's a very old 32-year-old guy. He got knocked out by Batgirl. He got dropped multiple times, whether or not if it was like a clean knockout, which it wasn't against Dana. It was enough for the referee to stop it. I think Manah's gonna. That's funny, Mana and Dana Batgirl. I think Mana or Mana Martinez. I keep calling him Mana because I think that's like the band in Mexico, Mana. But yeah, I think he knocks him out with the left hook. That left hook is beautiful. He hasn't really been able to show it off. Like his boxing skills, he trains with Adrian Yanez, he trains with Glory MMA and Fitness. I think that combination of his already established skills with the striking and the game planning of Glory MMA and Fitness will actually benefit him here, and I think he knocks him out in the second round. Again, Brandon's a tough guy. I think he gets dropped in the first. Mana might not be eager to put himself in a bad spot, maybe get taken down, and he kind of prolongs the fight a little bit, and then he knocks him out in the second round with a clean left hook. Next bout, oh boy, light heavyweight bout, Misha Cirkunov, Alonzo Menifield. Alonzo's minus 220, comeback on Cirkunov is a plus 180. Let me check my football real quick. Fuck. Jaguars lost. Anyways, Cirkunov. I think it's always like live betting, not like don't live bet Cirkunov, but it's always live to bet the fate on Cirkunov. Like as of late, I think he's getting too old, right? He's taking a lot of damage. He's moving back up to light heavyweight because, his stint in middleweight didn't go according to plan. He looked pretty good against Wellington Turman, but he kind of left himself exposed there. Alonzo Menifield, big guy, trains out of Force MMA. He makes a lot of boneheaded mistakes, right? He does a lot of things I don't like. Like he seemingly lets the fights escape him. And I faded him against Askar Morozov, who himself is a fraud, because I expected Alonzo to make that same mistake of like God knows what. Like it's not that he makes the same mistake over and over. It's more so that he has absent-minded moments in there, which leads him to lose fights. And I thought that was happening with the Morozov fight. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to make a big stunt. And there was a moment in that fight where he took down Morozov. Morozov got back up. And that's where I'm like, okay, Morozov's going to let it go. He's going to knock out Menifield at this point. And I was waiting for it. I'm like, I'm going to be proven right. I'm going to go back on the internet, tell people to suck my dick because I was right. And then Menifield did something I didn't expect. He recovered himself, took him down, pounded him out. I'm like, okay, cool. That's good to see. I like Menifield. I know I faded him. I know I expected him to make a dumb mistake. But overall, like I was happy that he won. Like, good, right? Back to the right track. Against Cirkunov, though, if you make a mistake like that, if you take him down, if you leave your neck exposed, if Alonzo Menifield's going to try to grapple now, that's his new approach. I just worry that he leaves his neck exposed and he gets choked out by Misha Cirkunov. He should knock him out in the first round, no problem. I just don't want to have my money tied up with Menifield in this fight. I'm not going to bet it. I predict Menifield to win in the first round. I'm okay. Like, I really do think Menifield wins this one easily. I think he knocks him out, no problem. He's a strong guy. And again, Misha's taken a lot of damage in his career. Like, even Ryan Spann, for example, like, I bet Ryan Spann to knock him out, and he did it easily. Ryan Spann trains with Alonzo Menifield. Saif Sayoud clearly knows a game plan to beat Misha Cirkunov, right? Like, he's just primarily the grappling type. He's going to try to take you down. Being big black dudes that are super muscular and super strong, I think that's his kryptonite. I'm taking Alonzo Menifield by knockout. Again, I just don't feel comfortable putting money down on a Menifield. Next bout, main card opener, Dusko Tudorovic versus Jordan Wright. Minus 190 for Tudorovic. Comeback on Jordan Wright is a plus 160. With this particular fight, Jordan Wright's always going to be live for the first round knockout. He fades though, and whether it be his gas tank or his mentality or his fighting spirit, he just doesn't always make it out of the second round. Like he's a front runner. Most of his wins are in the first round. Let me actually see if I can count them. I don't think he's ever won a fight outside the first round. So let's take a look. Round number 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, he won one fight outside of the second round, but it was 48 seconds in. 10. Yeah, if you look at his record, they're all first round wins or first round losses, or I guess one no contest to Fluffy, who knocked his ass out. So, does this go 2 rounds? It depends on what Dusko does. I fully expect Dusko to win this fight. Dusko, he's fought some good competition, much better competition. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess Jordan Wright did fight Bruno Silva, but that Bruno Silva is no longer on this earth. He's gone forever. So I guess he did fight a good version of Bruno Silva. So I'll give him that. And he looked good. Like he's a tough guy. Like, man, Bruno Silva, despite the fact that he got beat up by GM3, but Jordan Wright, he's a tough out in that first round, right? Like if you don't protect yourself against Jordan Wright and he goes out there ballistically throwing like spinning back kicks or axe kicks. Like the guy's got the karate background. Dusko's got to be minding his P's and Q's, but if he uses that black belt, if he uses that wrestling, take Jordan Wright down, pound his ass out. Simple as that. I don't want him to go for any submissions. Get him to the ground, take his back, flatten him out, pound him out, just like Maki Pitolo, and he should win this fight easily. It's just really how much has he recovered from that elbow from Chidi Njokuani from 4 months ago? That is my biggest concern. But when it comes to skill and I guess grit, Dusko has that. Despite my thoughts on his chin being also chinny, if we're battling chins here, I'm gonna go with Dusko Tudorovic. Jordan, I just don't think he has the durability. If I was to rate their chins, let's just say out of 1 and 2, Jordan would be 1, Dusko would be 2. So I'm going to take number 2 to win this one by second round TKO. I think that would be the smartest option. Just get it out of the first round and then finish him in the second, early second. So TKO, round number 2 for Dusko. Next bout, probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most, Askarov versus Brandon Royval. And currently the odds have it at minus 190 for Askarov. Come back on Royval plus 160. And for this one, I was going back and forth so many times. Like, I love Brandon Royval. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. He's got that it factor. I always say, how does Brandon Royval like his eggs? He likes them scrambled. Why? Because this fucker can scramble to save his life, man. If he was out in the middle of the ocean, he could scramble his way out of that ocean. That's how much this fucker scrambles. Like, he's just so much fun to watch on the ground. He's always attacking. He's always going forward. He's throwing spinning back elbows. He's doing everything in his power to finish you. As for Askarov, like, although his style is not as entertaining as Brandon Royval's, he's a very good fighter. He's able to withstand like the onslaught of Pantoja in that first round, where he tried to get him out of there as soon as possible, just like he did against Pantoja did against, oh my God, what's his name? The guy he fought last, whatever. He's no longer relevant, but he tried to get him out of there as soon as possible. It didn't work out. Askarov kind of slowed things down. Pantoja slowed down, was able to win that fight by a decision. My biggest concern with this fight, like, I initially thought, obviously Raw Dog's always live, but how live is he, right? Because is he going to continue doing the same thing, like where he does too much and he puts himself in danger, right? Like, he gets taken down, he gets his bag taken, or he gets put on his back. Will he be able to scramble out of Askarov's clutches, right? He's a very good grappler wrestler himself. So it does concern me, just because, like, depending on who's judging this fight, it could go one of two ways, similar to the fight with him, Askarov, that is, and Kai Kara-France. You value, the pressure, the strikes more than the overall control, because Askarov had the back of Kai Kara-France in that third round where he had a bit of control time. And then, Askarov just kind of backtracked thinking he was going to win the fight because he had done enough to win the fight with that control time, and he ended up losing. If Brandon Royval makes this grimy on the ground, he tries to scramble, throw up arm bars, try for triangles, just do everything in his power to win this fight. Elbows from the bottom, like on the feet, he just throws flying knees, just whatever he can, pressures Askarov, who doesn't like that pressure, right? He didn't like that pressure from Kai Kara-France. He could make this interesting, and I think he's very live to win this fight. Like it could go down to a split decision, and I think he could win this one. As for submitting Askarov, also very possible. Askar, I don't think he poses much of a submission threat to Royval. What does worry me about this fight, though, is Askar's power, right? If he decides to stand his ground and just start swinging, right, just throwing straight, I think he can hurt Brandon, possibly knock him out, or just really hurt him bad enough that he's just not the same for the remaining rounds, and he's just able to control him and kind of ragdoll him a bit. Like Brandon did give up a ton of takedowns against Bontarin, and even Matt Schnell hurt him, right? Matt Schnell hurt him in their last fight, and I'm like, dude, like I love Raw Dog to death, but there's just so many, you know, possibilities that he makes a mistake and he ends up losing this fight. If Brandon comes in here intelligently and he intelligently uses that aggression, I think he can have a lot of success against Askar. You know, I'm not touching this one. I'm just going to really enjoy it because of that. Like, I'm going to take Brandon Royval to win this fight. I think I have no idea how he's going to win it because I think he's got multiple ways to win it. I'm just going to take him as a straight pick. I'm not putting any parlays on this one. I just really want to enjoy it because I do think Brandon has that it factor, has that X factor that can win him this fight against Askarov, who he should be the rightful favorite. I think he's just more cerebral than Brandon. And deep down, honestly, I think he wins this fight. But I'm going with fucking Raw Dog, motherfuckers. I'm going with my boy. So I'm taking Raw Dog to win this fight. I do think he wins this one by a split decision. I'm going with that scenario, right? That scenario where the judges value more of that grittiness, that the overall striking from the bottom, just opposed to the control time. So I'm going to take Brandon Royval to win just by outpointing Askarov by creating those moments on the bottom, like scrambling, not necessarily sweeping Askarov. I think that's going to be too much of a task, but like landing elbows from the bottom, like punches from the bottom. I think that's going to win him this fight. But moving on, we've got co-main event Jonathan Martinez versus Cub Swanson at bantamweight. This damn fight has been plaguing me this whole week because I want to take Cub Swanson, right? I absolutely want to take Cub Swanson at plus 145 odds against Jonathan Martinez. At bantamweight is a huge, huge liability. I'm waiting for the weigh-ins on this one because I think Cub Swanson is super live to knock out Jonathan Martinez. And I've never said that really about Cub Swanson in his last multiple fights. I didn't say that he was super live against Darren Elkins. I didn't say he was super live against Giga, of course. Definitely not against Pineda. Definitely not against Kron Gracie. But against Jonathan Martinez, a guy who's on a 3-fight winning streak, who's a solid fighter, I think he's super fucking live in this fight to knock him out. Jonathan is primarily a kicker. He's very good with those kicks. He's got the southpaw. He's got those knees up the middle. Excellent kicks to the body, to the head. Like, he's just primarily the better kicker in this fight. And frankly, at this age, right, 28 and 38, 10-year gap in age, the biggest issue with Jonathan Martinez is the chin, right? The boxing defense, if you will. Like, he gets caught a lot. You know, I've always really suspected that about Jonathan. Like, man, like the way he kind of leaves his chin hanging there sometimes. Like, he's very technical, but he makes that mistake that Cub Swanson, who's got fantastic hands, great boxing, can capitalize on. It just really comes down to how Cub is going to look, right? Like, to me, if this was Jonathan Martinez at featherweight, I think Cub definitely wins that one based off of like his speed advantage, right? It's just more that if Jonathan Martinez was at featherweight, I think his chin would hold up a little bit better. At bantamweight, he's obviously cutting that weight, but same thing with Cub. Like, is Cub going to diminish himself more so than Jonathan Martinez? And despite the chin liability of Martinez, is Cub just going to be super weak to the body? Because if Jonathan lands oh my God, if he lands a kick to the body on Cub, that diminishes. I think he ends that fight. Because although he's not Giga Chikadze, it's just Jonathan's got fantastic teeps to the body, man. Like, I don't know if Cubs ever made 135 at that age. At 38 years old, you're going to deplete yourself so much so that like a teep to the body could potentially get you out of there. That's what I'm concerned about. So it's really tough. Like I want to see Cub first before I like take a shot on him, but I really do think Jonathan Martinez wins this fight. Like at bantamweight, I think he's just going to be too fast for Cub. Cub's a very fast guy at featherweight. I don't know how he's going to look at bantamweight. He's 38 years old. He's taken a lot of damage, a lot of punishment. Why is he moving to 135? I really don't know. And again, Martinez, he's got great distance management. I think, again, he's a very good fighter. He's got to be working on that boxing defense. So, and if he's going to be fighting a Cub at 135, I think it's his best bet to beat Cub at 135. Cub Swanson's, he's very good. He's still a very good fighter despite his age. It's just, again, he is going to be depleting himself going to 135 at 38 years old against I don't want to say like a hot shot in Jonathan Martinez, but it's a very tough fight, right? Stylistically, it's going to be a really interesting fight. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Martinez to win this one by a decision. But dear God, I think Cub is incredibly live to get a knockout. So I might even take a shot on him once I see. Well, I have to see the odds on that first. I haven't checked them out. But once I see the scale, and when I see him on the scale, I might actually make a concrete decision if I want to take him straight at money line. Next bout, main event, flyweight. Alexa Grasso versus Vivi Araujo. Minus 190 for Grasso, come back on Araujo, plus 155. This fight has been haunting me this entire week because I think it's a very good fight. Fucking building a shed or something outside. But it's a very good fight between two top-level fighters in that division. Vivi Araujo, I don't know why she's the underdog in this fight, really. Like, I kind of get it. I kind of get the narrative, right? Like, she's kind of fallen off a little bit. She's 35 years old. She's fighting a tough Mexican girl in Alexa Grasso with great boxing, ever improving jiu-jitsu. Like, she's been getting submissions. Like, she's more comfortable on the ground now, where in reality, that's where Araujo will have to take it to control this fight on the feet. Although Araujo's got that power, she's got that excellent movement. I think Grasso, when she lets her hands go, and I mean that when she lets her hands go, she's going to be a lot more dangerous. I think she's got the crisper counters, the better boxing than Vivi Araujo, which I predict to have the power advantage on this one. Vivi is looking at her Instagram, she's clearly getting ready to wrestle. And I think that's going to be a very smart play here against Alexa Grasso, whose takedown defense isn't the greatest. But again, she's getting more comfortable in the grappling exchanges, right? Like I went back and rewatched. I know this is at a different weight class, but I went back and rewatched her fight with Carla Esparza, and she was giving up takedowns a little too easily for my liking. She was also not engaging. Like she was making some really boneheaded mistakes in there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, Alexa? Even in her most recent fights, like she's not looking all that great. Like, yes, she's winning these fights, but it's not like she's out here, using her full potential, right? Like against Joanna Wood, she took her down and submitted her, but it was pretty close on the feet. Like she wasn't super interested in engaging. It seemed with Macy Barber. Like, yeah, Macy Barber was throwing kicks from like 14 feet away. She made it look easy, but like when Barber went forward, she was kind of making it a little gritty. Vivi Araujo, I think it's going to be the toughest matchup for Grasso in a while, because I think Vivi is more established than Alexa Grasso. Like she's fought much better competition. Yeah, granted, Andrea Lee dropped her and nearly finished her. Honestly, she landed, I think, a left hand with a right high kick, nearly put Vivi out, but Vivi grappled her down and really showed her who was boss in that fight. Like, dear God, she was really controlling her. Against Caitlin Chukagian, I don't really want to get into that one. There was a whole debate, but like she was able to kind of go toe to toe with Caitlin, and she did fairly well. Roxanne Modafferi, Montana De La Rosa, whatever, right? I think her biggest, I guess, name on her record is that Caitlin Chukagian fight, where a lot of people thought she beat Caitlin. What I find interesting about this fight is that if it comes down to for example, the gas tank of Vivi Araujo. If she gasses herself out, controlling Alexa on the ground, which to me, Alexa's going to have the cardio advantage. What I'm worried about in this fight is how far ahead will Vivi be that she can drop 2 rounds. You know what I mean? Is she going to be 3-0 going into the championship rounds, and Alexa Grasso just has to find that knockout, and Vivi has to survive, where she has a comfortable lead? I'm worried about that completely. If this was a 3-round fight, I would take Vivi Araujo at those odds all the time. I would concretely tell you to your face, Vivi's going to win this fight because she's going to use her grappling. I think her striking is good enough. What I'm really concerned about is obviously the gas tank going into round number 4, round number 5. At that point, Alexa Grasso, if she is down, I think she's willing to go out there and just let those hands go. What I'm concerned about Alexa, though, is she falling in love with her grappling? Because again, she hasn't really been throwing those hands as crisply and cleanly as I've wanted to see. Like in the past, yeah, she was just boom, 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 like great boxing. But like as of late, I'm just not seeing it. Like how much of a threat is she on the feet? You know what I mean? Like I worry about that kind of stuff. Because I have my doubts, like in the beginning, I'm like Alexa Grasso finishes her in the 4th round when Vivi is exhausted. But is Vivi going to get exhausted getting easy takedowns on Grasso and then just kind of moving in the mount? Like, I think Vivi could choke her out. I really do. This one's interesting for those many reasons, right? Like, it's a very interesting fight because it's 5 rounds. Even if it was 4 rounds, I would still take Vivi, but 2 extra rounds for Alexa Grasso to potentially get a finish worries me. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go with Vivi Araujo. As much as I'm on the side of Grasso, right? I do want her to win, just because I think fresh young blood. She's 29. Like the 35-year-old Araujo, like it's concerning because like what's her lifespan in the game? Like is she ever gonna reach a title? I think her versus Shevchenko is much more entertaining and much more fascinating than her Alexa versus Shevchenko. So this could be her like fast shot to the title. Like she's looking in fantastic shape, right? Like man, she is ready to wrestle, and I think she's going to put her wrestling shoes on here and out wrestle Alexa Grasso for at least 3 rounds to win the decision. Possibly get a finish around the way, maybe get a head and arm choke or something. But it's just to me, Alexa Grasso. I know why she's favored. It's just that like when I'm watching tape on her, I'm not seeing what I need to see to feel that comfortable in taking her as a favorite. So for those many reasons, I'm going to go with Vivi Araujo to win this one by a decision. I think it's going to be really close. I think many people might be super pissed because they thought that Alexa did enough to win that decision, because you're going to see an exhausted Vivi Araujo huffing and puffing, raising her arms up barely, and Alexa Grasso is going to be smiling like, yeah, I won the fight. And then, she's going to have that Pikachu face again where they read, 48-47 Araujo, and she gets all butthurt by split decision. But I'm going to take Araujo to win this one just based off of that. I know she's going to come out here to wrestle. Look, if Alexa Grasso's takedown defense skyrockets overnight, I'm going to be looking like an idiot. But I do think Vivi's going to have that strength advantage and the ability to either hold her up against cage, eat away the minutes, but for sure take her down at least a handful of times. So I'm going to take Viviana Araujo by a decision in this matchup. As to possible parlays, I do have a couple. Let me actually look them up real quick because I forgot. Just lost on football because these stupid Jaguars could not pass the ball. All right, so I've got 2 parlays so far. So I've got Dusko Tudorovic. So let me check what the odds are again on Dusko. Well, I got him. I got him Leo Mana Martinez and Victor Henry. So I got that as a parlay just because I really do feel confident in those 3. As for my like dumbass parlay, it's not too much different. I got the same dudes, but I got Maximov and Taira. I think those 5 are gonna. I'm more confident in those first 3, but I do think those 5 end up winning that fight. So these should be cashing me out. Everywhere else, I'm just not feeling this card for betting, right? Like Piera Rodriguez, like if she was the underdog, I would take her for sure, but she's too far out, minus 205. Sam Hughes, like how can I put it? Is there a possibility she cashes you out as an underdog? Yes, but am I willing to go to the teller at the casino and be like, one ticket for Sam Hughes, please? Here's my money. No, I don't feel comfortable doing that. As for Cup Swanson, no, I do feel comfortable taking him. Like right now with my casino, if I were to go there right now, he's minus no, I'm sorry, plus 140. It's more of like a shot in the dark for Cub Swanson. Again, I want to wait to weigh-ins, but that's what I'm feeling. Everywhere else, it kind of falls down to prop bets. Over 2 or 3.5 in the main event, I think, is a possibility. Victor Henry by finish is a possibility. Um, Pete Rodriguez by knockout, I think, is going to be a possibility as well. Over 2.5 by Nick Maximov and Malkoun, I think, is good. The under or the doesn't go the distance for Dusko, I think, is going to be a good one. And then submission for Taira or decision for Taira would be good. Other than that, though, like it's not the best card to bet. Just too many liabilities, and certain people are just kind of lined out, like Cirkunov. I guess that one, Alonzo Menifield, either by knockout or it doesn't go the distance, just in case you're worried that Cirkunov's going to catch him with like some stupid ass choke, and I mean that literally. Like Alonzo Menifield like goes in head first, like, and he gets his neck snatched up. But other than that, just those two bets I have so far. I'll probably do a couple live bets during. I kind of find that more entertaining, just because I like the instant gratification of putting my money down on a guy and it comes back to me immediately online. But yeah, those are my predictions for UFC Fight Night Grasso versus Araujo. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I kind of feel bad for talking shit about Olberg all the time, so I'm going to start leaving people near the end with a dumb joke. Because Bo Nickel is probably the most popular guy right now. He's the most talked about guy. I'll leave you with a Bo Nickel joke, which there aren't many. But you know those jokes about like X fighter if he was this, like Ricky Simon if he was a food snob, Picky Simon. So I'm like, okay, what Bo Nickel if he was black, Mo Nickel. You fucking racist. See you next week.